worst pay-per-view of all time, December to Dismember, features an elimination chamber match. And Bruce Pritchard has told us that he remembers Paul Heyman campaigning really, really hard that the Big Show should be the first person eliminated, and it should happen within seconds because CM Punk tapped him out. And of course, that's not what wound up happening. Paul Heyman, that would be the end of him sort of running ECW, and he's going to be asked to go home. And instead of tapping out Big Show right away, he's actually the first person eliminated, and it happens at the hands of Mr. Rob Van Dam. Do you remember December to Dismember and this debacle?
I remember that. It was a debacle. Too many cooks in the kitchen, too many random agendas. You know, the ECW phenomenon is pretty incredible. You know, I was and still am a fan of their product. I love listening to Bubba Dudley talk about his ECW days fondly and glowingly on Busted Open Radio, my favorite radio show, with Dave LaGreca and the crew. Love those guys. But I think sometimes the love of ECW is sometimes misguided to the standpoint that it's hard for me to fathom that there would be an ECW that created by Paul Heyman if there had not been a Mid-South Wrestling that Paul Heyman watched as a tape trader and a fan, because the ECW physicality, the blood, the guts, and the beer, the fighting, the brawling was very prominent on Mid-South long before ECW was created. So I think that the Mid-South had something to do with the ECW stylings. Big fan of it. So, but the thing I'm trying to say is that the ECW brand, to those that were committed to it, is still a very special thing. And if you, like I said, you listen to Bubba or some of these other guys that were ECW guys, had the jersey, the first helmet, they were in the game. You'll hear that it was a special place. But Paul tried so hard to resurrect it and make it a special place that it sometimes alienated some folks. But Paul can be very persistent. And I remember talking to Paul one time. He wanted to do, he was pitching creative some program for Little Guido, one of his ECW boys, and I can't remember, James Marito, I think is his last name. Great guy, but he's small. I said, Paul, you're dying on the wrong hill, man. Hey, you're bugging the hell out of Vince, because I've just said, if Heyman hits me one more time about doing this big angle with Little Guido, I'm going to kill him, type thing, tongue in cheek. But Paul was that persistent. If he was that persistent on Little Guido, you could only imagine how persistent he was on CM Punk. There are different talents there now. And Little Guido's fundamentally sound, good guy. You want him on your team. You want him in the locker room, but you don't want him to main event in a card. And I'm not saying Paul wanted to be the main eventer, but he indicated that he had that potential to get over and be a star. And nobody believed Paul on that one or will go along with it. So that's kind of that, Conrad. The Heyman had a way of ruffling the feathers, and he wanted to resurrect ECW so badly that he was willing to put himself on jeopardy, and it bit him in the ass because, as you said, Vince had heard enough, and Paul was no longer involved in the ECW production. It just was not going to be resurrected. It was a brand that had its run. It was a great run. The WWE bought the library. We helped fund them for a while. All that was good stuff, no problem. We signed some really good talents from ECW, much like Laurinaitis did in the mid-2000s with the Ring of Honor guys that we're talking about. So I think Punk was but he came out of it okay. Even though he lost his guardian angel and his biggest supporter officially, I'm sure that Punk and Heyman continued to talk and strategize and game plan all